What is up, everybody? We are the Red Panda Pirates Radio. I am Monkey D. Shadow.
I'm Raihne88.
I'm Deni257.
And boy, oh boy, do we have a show for you today.
Kind of sounded like Bob the Tomato there just now, but I'm gonna let you have it.
So, have anybody ever heard of the planet called Rahab? Not to be confused with the prostitute inside of the Bible? No? Well, guess what? We're gonna go ahead and go through about what is Rahab, or who is Rahab, and what is their, like, what's the planet about?
What's the true history and how it actually came into its own demise, as you kind of see here. Not exactly to that extent, but who's to say?
It could happen.
Yeah, tell me it didn't happen.
So let's go ahead and get into it.
Every wonderful planet was in your control. The sardius, Mercury, topaz, Venus, and the diamond, Mars, and the beryl, Earth, and the onyx, Saturn, and the jasper, Jupiter, and the sapphire, Rahab, and the emerald, Neptune, and the carbuncle, Uranus, and the gold, Pluto. The deputy ship of your mold of movement in the physical realm, think noise of motive power and exhaust pipes, was prepared in you the day that I created you. So guys, you can see from here that Lucifer was actually the prince over many realms, which is why you always hear that he is, or was, over the skies. You know, he's everything that was light. He traveled through the stones of fire, the solar systems, and the universes, because even in the Bible you see that it says that he fell through worlds. And you were perfect in your ways from the day you were created until this rebellion came unto you. Now this is from NephiliumGiants.com. If you actually see the link up above, it continues and it says, by the massive amount of your trade and position of rule you held over the universe, it has filled you with greed and violence, and you have decided in your heart to take from me what I had not given to you. And that was mentioned in Ezekiel 28:13.
And Rahab was evil at birth. Talking about the planet, in the heart of its ruler Lucifer. Lucifer actually ruled over Rahab. This is where he began his rebellions towards God.
It got deep because Rahab was a planet once like ours, orbiting the sun. It was larger than Earth and more along the lines of Saturn. Its name means boaster or pride. Its mass was large enough to hold 10 Earths, and its orbit was nearly circular. So that's actually very impressive, because if you think about it, what type of communities could you possibly have on Rahab? Well, you had the fallen. You had the pre-Adamic people. People that weren't always on our planet,
and this
who are now here.
This took, the time period of this was before Adam. So
Far
this
before.
is way before Adam and Eve even came into play.
Yes, you would probably look at the very beginning of Genesis when it says the earth was formless and void. So this is prior to everything being formless and void. And formless and void only happens because of the destruction of the planet Rahab. If you look at perhaps a diagram of what a solar system or alignment of the planets, if you just, lay them straight out in a line, you could notice where Rahab would have been. And you could see, just from the way the items are placed, that you're missing something, if you really look at it like that. And you have to wonder, where does this asteroid belt come from? We've got the planets and an asteroid belt, which I never really thought about it before until I started wondering what would cause the asteroid belt.
Well, the remains of Rahab, they're saying that it is the asteroid belt. It was like Mars, once inhabited with many wonderful beings of the realm. And we keep seeing realm pop up. It was in the ancient days where it was destroyed completely. You know, Mars was a beautiful stone of fire before having its atmosphere stripped away.
Now, when Rahab was destroyed, it seems that the impact of that planet being that large caused pieces to explode in different directions. And all the planets have some craters, some meteorite pieces or whatever that actually caused such a havoc within the universe. So we're looking at an exploding planet, large pieces of debris that actually left craters on Earth, changed some of the patterns of the way planets revolved around each other. I mean, imagine something that big exploding. And when you look at the way the planets are aligned, it would have been close enough to make such a change where you would have those types of shifting going on.
My bad. Drop something.
And if you're wondering where this comes from, this is in Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, you know, when it talks about what Rahab was. But it's not until you get into the book of Job. And in the book of Job, it will tell you that planet Rahab, the mysterious planet that was once destroyed thousands of years ago, which is considered by many scientists and theorists today to be the creation and cause of what is known as our asteroid belt. However, the asteroid belt would simply be the pieces of a destroyed asteroids themselves. Either way, they're going to have to go back to work to figure out exactly what caused the existence of our asteroid belt around the Earth, because it wasn't Rahab. And I'm going. The Bible speaks of the existing planet called Rahab, the home of Lucifer. And from Lucifer, once he falls with pride, and we're not talking about that, look at what I have done, but there's a covetousness, a deceitfulness, you know, from a perfect being with such vast knowledge that says, I will ascend and become God. So even though the universe was created beautifully, really, you know, just looking at how Earth is created, how beautiful that was, you can kind of see where the planets are now. It's not what they were originally.
Right, before, like we said before Adam and Eve, it was the ancient celestial angels that lived on these different planets. It wasn't like humans, like me, like us. It was actually celestial angels.
And you see their footprints throughout the universe and throughout our own planet. So there is backing evidence of them being here, which leads back to everyone saying, well, what happened before Adam and Eve? Because Earth can't be that young. Well, it's not.
I know. I questioned it. I always questioned, well, what was here before Adam and Eve? And, you know, to clear it up, when we say celestial angels, we're actually talking about the ancient sons and daughters of God. You know, sometimes they would say, if they just say sons, referring to female angels as well, because that's how God made it, put it into place.
Well, even though you say sons in the Bible, you never see where it actually says female angels, so there's no proof that you actually had female angels. But as you get into angel worship, and later as we discuss the way that Satan has turned things around, because when you see the as you get further down in this discussion, it says that the sons of God went into the daughters of men. See, so there you have male, female. So the females were human, and the males are actually going to be angels, the sons of God. But you know, there's no doubt that angels exist, for one. So if we can go with the premise that angels do exist, if we can say there is evil in the world and you've got greed, and if you can trace back the beginnings in the Bible and look at the book, well, not just in the Bible, there are other places too, but we follow the Bible here.
So let's get down and dirty with it. Further into Ezekiel 28, you kind of see where he starts to talk about further down, way further down. By the multitude of your trade, and this is Ezekiel, what, 28?
28.
28, verse 16. When a multitude of your trade, they filled your midst with violence, and you sinned. So I cast you, profane from the height of God, and I destroyed you, O covering cherub, from amongst the stones of fire. But you see descriptions of Rahab being built out of Lucifer's own fire and stone. And now you're seeing those same parallels in Ezekiel. So obviously, you know, you always hear the brimstone and the fire, and we're all going to die like that if we choose not to obey God. Okay, well, why is there always brimstone and fire? Brimstone and fire. We're starting to see why.
And these angels that, you know, they created habitations on Earth, Mars, Rahab, and the moon. You can find glass piping on Mars. You can find pipes on the moon. And
it's hollow. So obviously there's been something there, or there's something still there. We were even greeted there. You can find that stuff on FBI.gov. Look into the different moon landings and see all the transcripts of, hey, there's somebody else there, and they greeted us on the moon.
Well, it would be silly of us to think that man is the only thing that God ever created. You know.
It's not. God created many things before man.
And the things that he created originally were perfect. But you have free will. And even the angels have free will.
Well, in Psalms 148, you are anointed cherub, sorry. You are anointed cherub that covers, and I had put you in holy heights of God. You walked up and down in the midst of stones of fire. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created until
iniquity was found in you.
But again, you see that same parallel of stones of fire. Here we go into stones of fire. Keep rolling. Go further down. Further down. So the Bible confirms underneath its hidden layers that Rahab was indeed Lucifer's home. His ancient seat of power had a mansion there. Wouldn't it be nice to just have a random mansion just chilling out on a different, like, that's probably why he got so full of himself. He was like MTV Cribs, like, yo, dog, peep my planet real quick.
Well, he also had an economic system based on money. It was politics and economics. This is how he ran his planet. So you can see some of that today on Earth. So Lucifer wanted to rule it all, and he was greedy, and he actually had it all. He had his own planet, for crying out loud, but he wanted more. He wanted to be God, and that's when the rebellion started. It started on Rahab.
See, we have kids, and they're up there like, yeah, I could just have this new car, or I could get all of your dominion. Nah, bro, like, just be happy with the little planet. Why you gotta take the whole universe and then some?
Well, Rahab wasn't a little planet. He had a big planet.
Yeah, he had the largest planet. This is not one of those, welcome to under this old house. No, it was not one of those moments.
You know, there's nothing new under the sun, and there's nothing new about the New World Order. You know, Lucifer's plan, his attempt at global communist empire that worshipped him as a god. And that's what they did on Rahab. They worshipped him instead of God.
Well, not only on Rahab, that was not enough. The Bible says that when Lucifer was kicked out of hell, he took with him 1/3 of the angels. Okay, but looking at it before Adam and Eve, as Lucifer existed, so you had angels located in different places. Because remember, the angels were created first, and then man was created later. And angels are considered messengers of God.
Now, he fell through worlds. So let's take this back to where let's fast forward real quick, just to let our listeners know. He fell through worlds. So when God blew up Rahab, you know, he passed Mars, which threw Mars off his track and destroyed Mars. And then, you know, he came to Earth. Now we're going to get later on, we're going to find out the devastation of what really happened when this planet was blown up. So we're going to get into that a little later. But it's going to be really awesome to find out what actually happened.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Well, he will get another attempt at, dethroning God, which we know it's not going to happen because it's prophesied. He has 1,260 days allotted time on earth to do so. So I wonder how many days has he burned through of that 1,260.
And then is it our form of days or is it God's form of days?
Yeah, because one day of God,
one
day that God has is 1,000 years. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if
a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and that's in the Bible too.
But see, when they say is as, I'm like, dude,
of Revelation,
that's still
and
kind
it
of
tells
vague.
you that when Satan mounts his second attack to become God, he is going to create his own fallacy or his own theory, or his own world of doing it, and that's going to be 7 years. But in the midst of the 7 years, you're going to have 3.5 years
Of
where
peace.
and in the midst
Quote,
of that
unquote,
peace is when they're going to begin to revolt.
If that's 3.5 years, then that's 1,260 days.
Right.
3.5 years.
Because remember
so
now,
with that 3.5
He
years
hasn't
of
even
peace
gotten
of
there yet,
him
then.
coming to that, there's 3.5 years of peace. He's gonna give us that peace, and he's thinking that people are gonna.
well, he's going to say peace, peace.
for that peace, and start worshiping that person because we have peace.
We have peace. But when he comes on the scene, he's going to come as the promised Messiah. Remember, many people expecting Jesus to come back. And the first person that comes back
is going to be a false Messiah.
Yes. But let's get back to this planet and what happened before then, because I found it very interesting that God himself destroyed Rahab. And he allowed damage to the other planets. So, just like it says in the Bible that sin impacted everything on the earth during Noah, or the pre-Noah days. So we have to say that sin impacted the universe. That's why you have the craters and the moons and the damages and stuff like that, where you can see where there was once life in abundance, there's more like a desert and a dead zone.
Like, think about it. When y'all would get a whipping for doing something wrong with your sibling, wouldn't your sibling also get a whipping? Boom! That's how it happened.
Yeah,
no one's innocent.
Whenever, it didn't matter if you had people on Rahab that didn't want to go with Lucifer and didn't want to be there, they suffered as well because the lukewarm planet was judged.
Well, I think that, remember, there's a time frame when all the angels go before God to give a report. And we have to remember that. I can't see Lucifer keeping anybody around that did not want to go with his plan. Just not going to happen.
So you don't think they had some type of insiders that God had on these different planets that wanted to rebel against him?
No, because God is all-knowing, and he's everywhere. Remember, he said that until pride or iniquity was found in Lucifer's heart. And then Lucifer was, the way he was created, I mean, his whole body, when the sons of God sang at the stars and stuff like that, when they tell you about the stars falling, imagine traveling from planet to planet, being able to go back and forth from heaven to earth, heaven to Mars, heaven to Mercury, heaven to Rahab. And you've got a planet of people that decide, we're not going to do what God wants. We're going to become God. We're going to rule this, not just this planet, but the universe, everything that God has created, including heaven. And you find stories like this throughout the different civilizations. Every civilization, especially the Greeks, when you start to look at Zeus and the Titans and stuff like that, But going back to Rahab, because if you notice that with the Titans, they ascended to Mount Olympus, but in Satan's deal, he wants to ascend to heaven. And Satan, he did take a third of the angels with him. And they had to exist somewhere, which nobody knows exactly how many angels there are. That is not information we're given.
The third is still a lot.
But you still have the third of spirits that are waiting, that are working. And when you look at poverty in the world, when you look at lawlessness and different things like that, and we can see just in where we are right now, how crime has increased, the weather has increased and stuff like that. So in Job
is like crazy is that even in this Genesis Journal.blogspot.com, even in this it says the sixth terrestrial planet. Sixth terrestrial planet. What's considered the number of man is 6.
Yes.
So God calls Rahab boaster, pride. It was actually obliterated. So what does Job say?
The pillars of heaven are stunned at his rebuke. He quiets the sea with his power, and by his understanding he shatters Rahab. By his spirit the heavens were beautiful, by his hand forbids the fugitive snake. And Lucifer is referred to as a snake. Also as a dragon.
And also in Psalms 89:10, you have broken Rahab into pieces as one slain. You have scattered your enemies with your mighty arm. That is powerful.
Because now it even administers the fact that this planet did exist. He blew it up, and everybody's everywhere.
You know,
but think of the Tower of Babel, when man was like, "Oh, bro, we can get to the heavens," and he was like, "No, not today. Let's go ahead and kind of scatter their languages, scatter themselves, so that they can never do this again." Because I don't think for him the Tower of Babel was just man trying to do what man wanted to do. It was more so of he was kind of seeing echoes over time of what Rahab was and what Lucifer had previously did. And I really think that's probably why he took the Tower of Babel so to heart. Like, yo, no, we need to just scatter everybody.
Because,
y'all making some really
remember
bad
now,
decisions.
you're eating.
Wanted to get up there now
Exactly.
and take over heaven and do what God does.
So
that's the reason. So he did see those characteristics in the humans that he created. The same characteristics he saw in Lucifer when he created. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Again, we're looking at sin. So you and if you think of sin, don't think of it as either you're obedient to God or you're not. So sin is just disobedience. Whatever it was that God said to do, disobedience is I'm not doing that.
Exactly.
And God gives you the choice. So really,
that's where your free will comes in. Either you're gonna obey, or you just don't want to obey, and
just fall to the wayside. Yeah.
So scientists did find evidence of home of fallen angels on 11/11/11. Now this is crazy. When me and Denny was looking through some information, when we got home, when Rain got home, and she actually pointed out it was 11/11/11, and
yeah, that's the date the article was actually.
You got to remember with numerology, or even not even with that, just looking at those 11s. Each 11 is a doorway. And in the Bible, you always see that 3 is a confirmation of God. So now you've got 3 doors pointing in the same direction. So scientists find the evidence of a giant planet Rahab that existed in the solar system. And again, this planet was home to the fallen angels and Lucifer. So here we go. The asteroid belt is only a small remainder of the material that once resided in the region between Mars and Jupiter. And Rahab actually contained up to 10 Earth masses, so it was 10 times the mass of Earth. The moons, the rings, the matter around the gas, the planets, Jupiter, Uranus, Saturn, Neptune, all those are remnants of Rahab. Because when it was destroyed, the gravitation and interactions with other planets actually made the mass be lost into the solar system and space. So what you see further down, it says, because of the very strong gravitation, the planets Jupiter, Saturn, attracted most of the non-gaseous matter of Rahab. So you actually see those rings around Saturn. Uranus and Neptune also attracted debris and incorporated them into their planetary systems.
Now with comets and asteroids, everything that has, they say, oh, we found some type of water there. That can only come from a planet. That cannot be formed in dead space. It has to come from a planet that is scientifically proven.
So what you're saying is, when Darth Vader blew up Alderaan, all that extra stuff went flying out there, and we're just looking at the mass of those thousands that Obi-Wan was talking about right when Princess Leia was just closing her eyes and like, dang, I'm never getting chimichangas from there again.
Well, if you think about it, if you want to go to there, yes, the Death Star did destroy that planet, and it created an asteroid belt. So, how come our asteroid belt wasn't a planet? How was that asteroid belt created? Well, if we see here how, God destroyed Rahab, and Rahab became our asteroid belt. Now, scientists say that that's impossible because if you put all of that debris and everything in our asteroid belt together is smaller than the moon. But also you got to think about it. When something explodes in space, if it doesn't stay in that one spot, it gets shot out.
Then it just
Where
keeps
does
going.
that other debris go? That other debris just continues into space, flying until it hits something.
Well, it only hits the gravitational pull of other planets.
Either that or it hits
or their
the
surfaces.
planet.
Yes.
So, like we were saying, water can only be formed on the surface of a planet, not in the dead of space. So every time, I'm going to go back and say it again because I know it blows a lot of people's mind. Every time that we hear about an asteroid, comet, or anything like that that has some type of water, as like they said with Bennu, they were saying that it may have some type of water or something like that. That's actually coming from a planet that was destroyed by something. Either another planet collided into it, God blew it up, or something happened to that planet. Maybe the Death Star blew it up. But if you have water on comets or asteroids, it comes from a planet.
But water can only form on the surface of a planet with an atmosphere. You know, it's funny. Weren't they just talking about the fact that they found water on Mars last year?
Now, that could have been because of
Terraforming.
Elon Musk's bright idea of nuking it.
Yeah, because you guys saw those rings of quote-unquote ice. He claimed that it's just rings of ice. But I'm pretty sure we bombed it. I'm like, yo, man, come on. You can't just be like, oh, it's just ice rings. And at the same time, yeah, we nuked it. The only way that you can create or kick off any form of atmosphere somewhere where it's almost desolate is if you restart it. And of course, we realized that if we nuked a planet, it could kind of kickstart that hydrogen atom. Why? Because an atom bomb, a nuclear bomb, is a hydrogen bomb. And the cells that are the molecules that are in there are extremely small. The casing itself is just out of proportion compared to the actual atoms inside of that bomb.
And water is what? H2O. Hydrogen
bomb.
Where's the water boy when we need him? Now, they're saying that some of the debris from this planet Rahab
with some high quality H2O.
It's actually some of them became moons of other planets due to the gravitational pull. Y'all might hear the dog. The dog is over here sleeping on the floor and she's dreaming.
And just chasing, who knows what type of bunny. Is it rabbit season or duck season?
Maybe it's a squirrel.
Okay.
Pato!
Pato! But, it's just crazy about this whole planet idea that Lucifer was actually over. And that's where the rebellion started against God. Now, there is geological evidence on Earth in the KT layer that a heavy bombardment period took place, depositing
iridium onto
the planet. Now,
which
what is
caused
a
the
KT
extinction
layer?
level of dinosaurs.
Exactly. We're gonna get in. I'm so excited about that we found that information. But first, we need to understand what is a KT layer. Now, a KT layer
is actually the transition between the Cretaceous and Tertiary periods of geologic time, characterized by mass extinction of many forms of life, including dinosaurs. Also, a geologic stratum marking the boundary.
What is the boundary layer of evidence of?
Well, if you scroll down a little bit. Let's see. So it's actually evidence. Is it evidence for an asteroid impact? Okay, so a thin, dark line found in the layers of sediment around the world is evidence that something devastating happened to the planet 65 million years ago, and that line is known as the KT boundary. And that was actually found on what, Universe Today? And in some other places as well.
Yeah.
I would quote Wikipedia, but we all know anybody can edit that. But I'll take universetoday.com.
For the fun of it, you know, the crater is estimated to be over 150 kilometers, 93 miles in diameter, and 20 kilometers, 12 miles in depth.
Which lets you know that the impact of the debris coming from the planet really, go back to before, okay, where you had severe damage or vast damage, that you would have had the destruction in the form of passing rogue planet, sorry, wrong thing, but with the destruction, you would have devastation on Mars, the atmosphere, the polar shift, and other planets, including Earth. And we do know that true north has shifted.
Again.
Yes.
Exactly. So let's get into, did Rahab, the destruction of Rahab, send a piece of it to Earth that destroyed the dinosaurs? They say that a comet or asteroid destroyed the dinosaurs. Where did it come from? Well, we all know before Adam and Eve, there was something on Earth. Now, what destroyed that something on Earth when the Earth was destroyed the first time? Yes, there was multiple times that the Earth was destroyed. The first time was by fire. Am I wrong?
Well, one time, yes. No. The next time it's going to be fire. The last time it was a flood. We don't know exactly what it was prior to the flood, but we do know that it has been destroyed before.
Okay, so check this out. When something is destroyed, let's say Rahab was destroyed, right? It created the asteroid belt. When that explosion came to, who's to say that an asteroid from that planet, because it was an asteroid or comet. Asteroids and comets has water on it. Who's to say that that asteroid and comet did come from Rahab and hit Earth?
Well, for me, I mean, I think the proof's in the pudding, because they always scream and shout that the asteroid was so
Did they let it all out?
massive. And yeah, they kind of did. It was so massive that it took out a large portion of life on Earth and even created an ice age. All right, well, if it came from something nearby and smacked it at a large speed, or at least a great enough speed, that would cause that. So Rahab being the quote-unquote sixth planet, if there is an explosion in your galaxy, in your neighborhood, and the shrapnel came through, wouldn't you become Iron Man? There you have it.
Yeah, we'll just look at the hydrogen bomb. Look at the bomb they dropped on Hiroshima.
Yeah.
And how much destruction and force you had with that. Now, Rahab was bigger than her. Much bigger than her.
Much larger.
way
So
bigger.
we don't even know what else, because when you look at well, there was a time before there was a moon. But even if you look at the moon, there's so many things that hit the moon. And you see all those craters there. There's craters all around the world. Come on, y'all.
There's multiple things that hit the moon.
And now with the technology, as you go through, you can see the different features on the planet that look like a pyramid, or look like a channel, or look like it once was a river, or once was an ocean, or something like that. You know.
You know, and here in this diagram that I've been popping up every now and then, just to give you a visual of the solar system before Genesis 1-2, and after Genesis 1-2. And it's just crazy that, you know, this did happen. You know, it's here. It's in the Bible. It's documented on what happened. You see it over and over again. Now, there are physics in the Bible. Believe it or not, you know, God created everything. So why wouldn't He create physics? Why wouldn't He create science? Why wouldn't He allow this to happen? Now, it does get into the wrong hands, and it becomes evil. But everything that God creates is good, and is meant to be used for good. Now, we're going to look into this guy right here. Rain, tell him who that is.
So Kepler, who was actually in the phase of 1571 to 1630, thought there should be an additional planet between Mars and Jupiter. And then a bit later, Johann David Titius? We're not gonna. No,
Mr. T.
A whole extra.
Mr. T.
We're gonna call him Mr. T. sans big bangles. Anyway, 1729 to 1794, he noted that there's a curious spacing of the planets. Each was twice the distance from the sun as its predecessor. And then Bode formulated, which, by the way, why is this name so common? Like, that's the only name y'all had back in the day? Like, what? Anyway, Bode formulated this as a law in 1778, leading to an extensive search for the quote-unquote missing planet.
Now, why is Kepler so important, and why are we mentioning his name? Well, according to NASA mentions him in his laws of time and planets and everything else. So for him to say, hey, there was a missing planet in between Mars and with Jupiter, like, that's big. Nobody understands how big that is.
So the
this person isn't crazy because NASA follows his laws. The first law is planets move in an eclipse with the sun at one focus. The second law is the radius vector describes equal areas in equal times. And the third law is the square of the periodic times are to each other as the cubes of the mean distance.
The average
So
difference.
for this guy to say that there should be a planet here, and for NASA to actually have him featured on their website as laws, that should speak to a lot of people. A lot of people need to understand that is huge.
So this law he actually published in 1619, the Harmonices Mundi, which would be like world harmonies, because Mundi does mean world, as long as I'm still using my etymology correct, even though I fail often with that. It was this law, not an apple, that led Newton to his law of gravitation, and Kepler can be truly called the founder of celestial mechanics. So that means he really does understand the physics of how our universe is actually in place.
Now, with ancient Earth impacts, astronomer Tom Van
Flandern. Flandern. Weird, huh?
Exactly.
Oh, gosh.
He considers the several such collisions happening during Earth history. His hypothesis is based on different compositions of various asteroids and comets.
So that converts the atomic time scale, that is the conventional old Earth geological time scale, to ordinary dynamic time that would place these events within the framework of human history. The flood, which you see that in multiple histories, including everybody has a flood story, period. I don't know why, but it's like the Popeyes chicken sandwich of the world. The breakup of the continents and the sudden, because they don't know about Pangea, and the sudden extinction of the dinosaurs. Astronomer Dodwell's observed a shift in the tilt of the Earth's axis in 2345 BC.
Before Christ.
Joshua's long day, and so on. For now, we must postpone discussing such fascinating topics. According to this khouse.org, you can find that in articles 1997, 9/print, whichever.
So it goes back to saying that a significant event of something breaking up with that passed by and made this big gravitational pull also is the sudden extinction of dinosaurs. So, and it's before Christ, so it's before Jesus came to Earth. So this could be way before, God. He didn't create Earth because he did create Earth. When Genesis 1, when he created everything, the Earth was empty. It was a black void. You had stuff here before Adam and Eve. And it's crazy because a lot of people don't understand that. They always have questions about it.
That's because they're always focused on the timeline after Adam and Eve. And remember, that's just one species, just one race that he decided to create. But again, you oftentimes see that there's a lot of stuff that is from prior to 65 million years ago. And we have a timeline of when it was destroyed. We know when stuff went down. Just accept it. Just believe.
Just gotta believe it.
Believe it.
So, going back to the different laws and everything, it's just crazy how we found all of this.
So I just thought it was interesting that you have like a 17, is it 17 or 16? It's a 16-year gap between the first law that he discovered and the final. And just the way that the orbits, because you have a difference between the circular and the elliptical orbits. With Nibiru, which is the one that everybody loves to say is that extra planet, which it is, it doesn't go in the same orbit as everybody else.
Yeah,
it actually is a reversed orbit.
And it is an extra planet, but it wasn't the only extra planet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about,
we covered that.
Floods and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, we did cover that, sorry. So going back to, some people might have the question like, hey, well, what about Rahab in the Bible? We know Rahab as the prostitute, but does it even mention it in the Bible about the Rahab, the planet?
It does, but wait, there's more. BibleGateway.com, they actually did a quick search just to see where else it was noted. Job 26:12, he quieted the sea with his power, and by his understanding, he shattered Rahab. Doesn't sound like prostitute to me. Keep on rolling. Psalm 87:4, I shall mention Rahab and Babylon amongst those who know me. Behold, Phistilia and Tyre, with Ethiopia, the one who was born there.
Now, with this verse right here, we see Rahab and Babylon, the two things that God destroyed for trying to start a rebellion against him.
Well, not only that, but Rahab meaning also can be sometimes used for Egypt. But when you go and you look at Egypt, you'll find that ancient Egypt, the knowledge and things that are applied really come from the fallen angels.
Yeah.
So once again, you're back to the original planet Rahab that was destroyed. They dispersed and they end up here.
I'm telling you guys, these few series that we're going to be going over, it's going to come in full circle. I'm just letting y'all know. But it's just crazy how everything comes together. Everything is mentioned. Everything is there. We also see Rahab being mentioned in Psalms 89:10. You yourself crushed Rahab like one who is slain. You scattered your enemies with your mighty arm. That is so powerful. And just reading that, you can just feel how powerful, God was.
Yeah,
and what he is capable of.
I just felt like that was a mic drop, but y'all can take that how you want to. He was like, crushed. Mic drop. Then in Isaiah 30, verse 7, even Egypt, whose help is vain and empty, therefore I have called her Rahab, who has been exterminated. He's talking about you as if you're just a bug in the universe.
And, a lot of people would be like, well, what about Rahab the prostitute? He said, I call her Rahab, who has been exterminated.
But you have to think about it. Rahab was what?
Rahab the prostitute was not exterminated because Rahab the prostitute goes on to become Jewish or Hebrew.
Exactly.
And she is one of Jesus' ancestors.
Now, could this be a double meaning? Rahab the planet, and I call her Rahab because she went away from her prostitution ways.
No, because this is Isaiah. The book of Isaiah is in the Old Testament. Rahab the prostitute wasn't mentioned until the New Testament.
No, she's in the Old Testament.
Yeah,
but you have to remember
that early
now
on. She wasn't in Isaiah.
When you're looking at the Bible, Isaiah, the book of Isaiah,
is a prophetic book.
It's almost like a mini summary of all the books of the Bible, because each chapter in Isaiah will parallel a book from the Bible. But here, when he says Rahab has been exterminated, Rahab the prostitute was not exterminated. Remember, she went on to flourish.
But her old ways were exterminated. That's what I'm kind of touching on. It's like her old ways of being a prostitute was exterminated.
But that's definitely not
It's not.
That's definitely not what Isaiah is
It's not
referencing.
the same reference.
Because if you look at it, Egypt is a
country.
It's still not beyond a country. Like, think of it. It's actually a civilization.
Right.
He's referring to Rahab as a civilization, just as they referred to Babylon and Egypt and Rahab in the same parallels. Every civilization that decided to call itself God or try to become God or get to the, as they say, the footstool of heaven has been exterminated.
And when you look at this passage here, it says that Egypt, whose help was vain and empty, okay, therefore I have called her Rahab, who has been exterminated. So
That's
it's
that
like
parallel.
saying Rahab is like a description of something that was destroyed. You know, like you may call somebody a fool or a joker.
Or an uncouth barbarian swine.
Okay. Uncouth and barbarian.
That way.
Yeah, you can walk that way too.
You know, I love learning things. I love bringing up different questions to them, and just learning everything. Also in Isaiah 51:9.
Where it says, "Awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of the Lord. Awake in the days of old, the generations of long ago. Was it not you who cut Rahab in pieces, who pierced the dragon?" So that still goes
And
back to
who
referencing
is the
the
dragon?
snake, which is Lucifer, and Rahab, which was his planet, in pieces, which is what? Asteroids.
Yeah, not look at that. He says the dragon, right? But if you look back at the civilizations in iniquity, there's always a dragon.
Yeah.
Like when you go into the, in China
Yeah.
or whatever, there's a dragon there. And when you look at when he says cut it in pieces, look how everything the angels dispersed all over Earth, and they
Yes.
formed these different civilizations, including Atlantis and.
It's like kicking a dandelion and watching it fly everywhere.
Well, dandelion doesn't make damage.
Right? But it does go everywhere. So scroll down just a little bit more, if you can, for me.
Yeah, definitely. This is just something I was looking up earlier when we was pulling up everything. If y'all want to go over this, since we have it up, Revelations 8, chapter 8, verse 8 through 11, y'all can go ahead and go through that.
Let's see, the name of the star is called Wormwood, and a third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the waters because they were made bitter.
Now this is saying this is a prophecy that's going to happen. Okay, so is the wormwood store going to be a second asteroid?
So would it be another planet that would be destroyed?
Well, this is destroying Earth.
Planet or random ISS. The International Space Station has been up there for a minute. We've been trying to repair it. And even video games themselves, if you look at Fallout and some other actual references to other games and other books and other movies, that thing comes falling out of the sky. And I just find it funny that it's called wormwood.
What's the significance to wormwood?
Let's Google. Oh, I guess that's up to me to Google. Hold on.
Am I just looking up wormwood?
Yeah.
Wormwood. And let's see here. Da, 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 da. I'm going to keep it going.
Or you can say wormwood in the Bible, since that's the references we're using right now.
Well, I'm trying to see what else does it stand for, because does Chernobyl mean wormwood? That's interesting. Wait a minute. Yeah, in the dictionary he showed the Ukrainian word from wormwood, a bitter wild herb used as a tonic in Russia. Chernobyl. What happened in Chernobyl? Nuclear radiation. What do they say was to the likeness of what happened on Mars? Nuclear bombs and radiation. Isn't that weird? That's what I was looking at. Like, I understand that the Bible goes and talks into it too, but sometimes you got to dig just a little bit further than just one book. Sometimes you got to parallel a little bit. Because with wormwood, it's also used to repel bees. It's also used as tonics. It's also used for a numerous amount of things. So why in the book of Revelation would they say that, oh, this thing comes from the Earth, and we're going to say this asteroid is like a nuclear bomb.
Wow.
Right? It's not just getting at another asteroid. It's getting at the same way that man destroyed themselves or will destroy themselves.
Yes.
And that's always been the thing, right? Nuclear war. I don't know. I just think that that's a different type of parallel. That's all I'm getting at.
Well, this could be, you know, for another day. You know what they say. So, you know, to sum it all up, you know, Rahab was destroyed by God because of Lucifer's plan of rebellion against God. It was made of fire and brimstone, like they kept saying throughout all the articles and throughout the history and also throughout the Bible.
Yes.
So that's going to basically do it for today's episode on Rahab. We have more episodes that's parallel to this that will be coming up. Our next episode will be on the next planet, Nibiru.
Right. Yeah. Good old Planet X.
Definitely look forward to that. We're going to get all of that in. Y'all make sure y'all follow us on Twitter @CreativePlunder. Also, if you like the music in the background, y'all make sure y'all hit up my guy, Mike Ultra. At beatstars.com/Mike_Ultra. That's MIKE. Y'all make sure y'all leave us a good review on Apple Podcasts. And this is going to be it. We are the Red Panda Pirates Radio. I am Monkey D. Shadow.
Yo, this is Raihne88.
Deni257.
Y'all keep plundering, plunderers. Y'all have a good night.